Hey everyone, it's Michael Kikle. I hope you're doing well today, and yeah, I finally saw it. I've been waiting off to finally check out Madam Web. Yeah, it's a 2024 movie, it's been a while since it came out, but despite all of the trashing it got, I figured it'd be more like I have my reasons for watching this movie, right? I had thought maybe it would be more one of those things like Morbius, that it became a meme and it was kind of blown out of the water. I didn't think Morbius was as bad as people made it out to be. It's definitely not that good of a movie. I've heard Kraven the Hunter is a lot better than that, and I heard Kraven is much, much better than this. But Madam Web, I had my interest in it. I wanted to see the Spider-Girl costumes that I saw from the trailer, which, by the way, just in case you're in denial like I was, when people said it was barely in the movie, that they were just like future scenes, that's true. What you saw in the trailer is about how long you got to see him in the movie, and you never really got a good look at them anyway. Madam Web, I guess I could start there. I didn't really know a whole lot about Madam Web. Some of my uncle's old comics that I inherited years ago, that I would look through all the time, they had a little bit of Madam Web here and there, but not enough for me to remember. I mainly, like a lot of people, knew Madam Web from the 90s animated series I love so much. She's just like an old, psychic lady who would kind of, look out for Spider-Man and whatever. That's about as much as I remember about Madam Web. But I didn't hate her character on the show. I thought she was kind of fun. And something different, too, if you will. I didn't know what the point of making this movie was, because Dakota Johnson is playing Madam Web here before she really becomes Madam Web. She's not blind. Apparently Madam Web is paralyzed. I didn't know that. I thought she was just old and decrepit in the comics and in the old show. So I didn't know about the paralyzed part of it. But anyway, that's all I knew about Madam Web. And Dakota Johnson's not that great of an actress anyway. I think she's pretty bad after seeing this. Not that she had a whole lot to work with, but I've seen her other movies, and I'm sorry, dude. I love fucking Don Johnson from, Miami Vice, but Dakota Johnson can't act to save her life. I'm sorry, dude. She's the ultimate Nepo baby. That's just what it is. And I'm not even one of those people that criticize nepotism in Hollywood, but she's a great example of somebody who is just not deserving whatsoever at all any kind of acclaim they get in Hollywood. But I wanted to see what would happen here, and I gotta be honest with you, man. Normies, right? Let's talk about normies real quick. Normies are a blessing and a curse. And shills are a blessing and a curse. Over time, shills have become more and more obvious to spot. They're the people who defend all of the Star Wars shows, not some of them that they actually like, not some of them that might be an unpopular opinion. I'm not saying that, but they defend all of them and see no reason whatsoever to criticize Disney on those things. There were no shills for Madam Web. Everybody was pretty much in the same pocket of this is terrible. And they're right. The thing is, there was so much in this movie that I thought was surprising that I had never heard talked about at all in the general discussions about this movie. And I had, listened to spoiler reviews, and I had listened to all that kind of, the stuff that was supposed to be more detailed, but usually from random channels, or like Jeremy Johns and whoever, the usual people I listen to. Of course, Chris Stuckman ruined his entire career based on this shitty-ass movie for some reason. But there were so many details that, Jeremy Johns, for example, was the only person who brought up any of this stuff. Everybody else, just no one brought it up. Not any of the people I know who are big Spider-Man people who talked about the movie. Again, kind of those shilly, fake comic book fan channels out there on YouTube. There's a ton of them who claim to know so much, and that's why I call them fake, because they claim to know so much that should be obvious information of what's being fed to you, if you even know the slightest thing about, Spider-Man in this case. Just hold out, listen to me in case you don't know what I'm talking about. I'll get there. But those obvious things, they somehow miss, right? There's a lot of obvious shit in Madam Web that I never heard a single person mention. And it wasn't like it was, withheld for, I don't know, some kind of mild surprise or anything. Great example. The film starts off, and I knew about this part, with the villain, Ezekiel Sims, being set up, who I knew nothing about, and I had heard maybe one person talk about how he was clearly dubbed the entire movie. They did a bunch of ADR work. People are not wrong. He is ADR'd in almost every single scene that I remember seeing him in. He basically is like out in the jungle with Madam Web's mom while she's pregnant with Madam Web, or Dakota Johnson, whatever we can call her, in the beginning of the movie. And this chick playing the pregnant mom, she's awful. The whole film is filled with this shit. Again, why Chris Stuckman decided to die on the hill for this movie, mainly for the director and for Schilling like he has become, I don't understand it. I don't get why you'd be willing to die on a hill for this movie or this director. She finds a very rare spider that Ezekiel Sims wants. It can give him powers, I assume. And he ends up shooting her and killing everybody that was there working on this project with them. And a bunch of, I'm not even kidding, I'd never heard any fucking person bring this up, and this is so right there, it's so wild and fever dreamish that I think it's worth bringing up. A bunch of, like, local tribesmen out in this jungle crawl down from the fucking trees. They live in the trees like monkeys almost. They climb down like a bunch of damn Ewok monkeys, and they have, like, netting over their bodies and stuff, and in some, like, flashback scenes and, like, psychic visions that Madam Web gets in the movie, she'll see their actual close-up of their face, and, like, the way the netting is laying over their head and neck, it looks like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man outfit. Now, mind you, if you've read enough comics, you've probably seen goofy shit like this before that was just dumb. I mean, real dumb. And yet, it felt very comic booky to me, right? It was dumb, but it felt like something from the comics. Comics have, I don't know if anybody doesn't know this out there, any normies that happen to be watching. Nothing offense to you, I mean. But a lot of you who don't read comics don't realize how common this kind of nonsense is. It's there. But anyway, these people, these tribesmen people, help birth Madam Web into the world, and somehow, some way, and Rambo Raff brought this up, and I thought this was hilarious on his channel, because I finally watched his review after watching this the other day. He brought up the fact we never find out how the hell Madam Web gets from wherever the fuck she was at in that jungle to America. We never find out about that. Was she adopted? Did missionaries bring her here? We don't know any of that. Nothing. And this movie was written by the guys who did Dracula Untold and Morbius. Dracula Untold is a good-ass movie. I don't care what anybody says. It's not the best thing ever, but it's so fucking good, and people kept trashing that movie when this movie came out. It doesn't deserve that. Dracula Untold's a good-ass flick. But Morbius, again, I can see the issues with it. That seemed like a lot of studio interference, and the same problem as Madam Web. Not having Spider-Man there affects the movie a lot. But anyway, Madam Web is Dakota Johnson, whatever the fuck we're calling her. She is just a regular old chick who is an ambulance driver, or an ambulance worker, I guess you could say. Paramedic, whatever. Her co-worker is Ben Parker. Yeah, Uncle Ben. Now, I liked that, and he's played by Adam Scott, who I also love from Parks and Recreation. Not one person that I heard talk about this movie ever mentioned the Uncle Ben thing. They never mentioned him. And I'm kind of like convinced that people just didn't know who Uncle Ben was, because they never say, they talk about him being married to a girl, and they never say her name. They never call her Aunt May. Not once, right? So I'm convinced people don't know that he's Ben Parker. He has a sister-in-law who is shown in the movie quite a bit, and she's pregnant with Peter Parker, but they actually have a scene where they're trying to figure out what to name the baby, and having, like, people at a pregnancy party or whatever guess, and Dakota Johnson's there. They never say that the baby's name is going to be Peter. Never, right? I'm convinced the normies out there did not know this was Uncle Ben. I'm convinced that's the case. And therefore, all of the YouTubers that I watched review this movie didn't bring that up. Not one time. And I watched a lot of reviews, because this was a big meme when it came out. For anybody in the future, if YouTube still exists somehow, some way, people weren't talking about how this was Uncle Ben, the other paramedic. And I think Adam Scott did a good job for what he could do with it, even though you can tell in interviews and stuff that he's super embarrassed with how bad this movie is. And when I say it's bad, I mean it's genuinely bad. We're talking about a movie that, like, again, I think Morbius has its watchability to an extent, right? Kind of like the Crow remake with Bill Skarsgård. I think Morbius is kind of paralleled with that movie on how decent it is to me personally, right? It's not even close to the worst 2 movies I've ever seen in my life, and the people who say that haven't seen enough movies, is what I would say. This, Madam Web, everything from the directing to the shots set up in those directing scenes, to the acting, the performances, dude, it is so embarrassing. I mean, it is just fucking embarrassing with how bad it is. There are scenes, dude, like with Dakota Johnson's delivery. The lines are bad, but, like, she's bad in general. There are scenes where she's, like, she has a vision at one point about her mom, right? Getting news about her. And in that vision, she gets to interact with her mom, and she's like, "You did it!" And I keep imagining the South Park Michael Jackson voice. It's what she sounded like to me when she said it. And I laugh every time, and I keep saying, "You did it" to my wife, constantly, all day, when I'm here and I see her. So I've been doing that all week, and she's annoyed about it. Anyway, Madam Web kind of has an accident. Ben Parker saves her at one point, and she now has psychic visions of the future, but she can also see moments in the past and interact with them. And she has some visions at some point that there are 3 teenage girls who will eventually become superheroes, Spider Women, if you will, Spider Girls. I don't know what they're supposed to be. One of those 3 girls being, I can't remember the one chick. She's a Latina chick, and she's beautiful. But Sydney Sweeney is also in this as too, and of course, everybody loves Sydney Sweeney. I don't think she's that great in this movie. I don't think she's that good of an actress, to be honest with you, even though she is pretty. But, yeah, they're supposed to be protected, and none of these 3 girls know each other. They're supposed to be protected by Madam Web. Originally, there was an idea to have a pregnant not Aunt May, Ben Parker's sister-in-law, Peter Parker's mom, was supposed to be another woman who was actually protected, that all 4 women were supposed to protect together for the main idea in the original cut of this movie, from what I understand. And I actually think I like that more. It would have given those 3 teenage girls that Madam Web ends up kind of kidnapping and protecting, it would have given them something to do. And I'm not even kidding, in what this movie actually is, none of the 3 of them have anything to do. Ever. There's no superhero costumes outside of the bad guy, Ezekiel Sims, having his really cool, and this is what sold me on watching this movie anyway, another reason for it anyway, was an evil Spider-Man movie. This movie has flavors of, like, Final Destination, it has a little bit of a flavoring of Terminator, and I was really excited about that idea. I wish Sims was web-swinging. He's not. I feel like that's something we should have done, but he actually just goes everywhere with his fucking Spider-Man costume that he wears. But it's kind of a cool costume. It looks like an evil Andrew Garfield costume from the first Amazing Spider-Man movie. And I like it a lot. I wish we had more to do with that. There's a lot of the times that even when he's wearing the costume, he's unmasked, right? But he can, like, crawl on walls, but there's other powers of his that I don't really get. Like, at the beginning, when he's first really shown attacking Madam Web and the girls in the subway, for some reason, the people around him and around them, they can't see him. And I don't remember if they ever even explained that. I wanted to know. I genuinely wanted to know what the stupid-ass reason could possibly be. Maybe it's a comic thing, maybe it's a terrible movie thing. I can't figure it out yet. It could be a little bit of both, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's got this flavor of Terminator in there, of him hunting the girls down, wanting to kill all of them because they're going to kill him one day in the future. Madam Web is trying to step in the middle of that and stop it. And again, none of the 3 teenage girls have anything to do. There's a pretty black girl, there's a pretty Latina girl, and then Sydney Sweeney is supposed to be the goofy nerd chick who is completely alone in life. And they're trying to, like, make her talk to, like, a guy at a diner and stuff, but, like, then the police and everybody are doing, like, a manhunt to save the 3 teenage girls who are missing. It's just a mess, dude. The movie just... it says on IMDb, this movie's an hour and 56 minutes, and yet it felt like an hour and a half to me. It flew by. It really did. It was so dumb that it flew by for me. But again, I mean, everything about the filmmaking, the shot setups, and just the casting for people like, you know, Madam Web's mom and stuff. Dude, it's just so bad. Dakota Johnson's bad. There's so many people wasted here. Like, they just, I don't know, man. There's so many missed opportunities and so much dumb, like, the worst parts of comics are put into this movie. Like that Spider-Man, you know, netting helmet mask thing that the tribesmen wear. Stuff like that is so damn stupid that, like, it is comic booky. People don't realize how comic booky it is if they're normies and they don't read comics. I've seen worse in Spider-Man comics. When you talk to people about One More Day, people are in denial that exists. And the rest of us who experienced it, who actually sat down and read it, either when it released or nowadays, we've had to sit down and actually think about how bad that was. You know what I mean? But there's been worse since One More Day. That was like the beginning of the end for Spider-Man comics, but there's been worse, right? But, I mean, dude, Madam Web, people have trashed it over and over again for years, but dude, it's a special kind of bad. Like, you haven't seen, you know, the worst blockbusters you've ever seen, they're not as bad as this actually is. Seriously. And I think people forget how good we've had it since, like, the 2010s with filmmaking for the most part, until they watch something like this and see what true bad filmmaking for a quote-unquote blockbuster is. It's embarrassing for everyone involved, to be honest with you. But anyway, Madam Web is... I'm shocked this got made. I kind of am and I'm kind of not. Sony kept doing this whole Sonyverse thing. I'm glad it's dead. I still want to see Kraven the Hunter at some point. It could not possibly be as bad as this, even though I've seen moments of it that were pretty awful. But this is a special kind of horrible. Like, I could never sit through Madam Web again. God, what a mess. Anyway, have you seen Madam Web? What do you think about this terrible-ass movie? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Let me know. Is this the worst Sony movie that ever got made when it came to their entire filmography, or when it came to just their Spider-Man-themed movies? I'm glad the Sonyverse is dead. Like, I like the first Venom movie a lot. I kind of love the first Venom movie a lot, to be honest with you. I love the Spider-Man movies that Sony did for the most part, except for Amazing Spider-Man 2 and kind of Spider-Man 3. But outside of that, dude, like, a lot of these Sonyverse villain movies, the problem is that you don't have the hero there. Literally ever. And that needs to be there. Spider-Man has to be there to make any of these characters work, to tie them in together at all. I just feel like you could have resolved a lot of these issues by just going ahead and having Spider-Man there. If they have actually signed off the rights entirely to having Spider-Man in only the MCU films currently, that is so stupid. I don't know what they were thinking. I really don't. Like, at least keep Venom as, like, your Spider-Man, right? Have him web swinging. Have him doing stuff like that. Like you did in the first Venom movie. Not the shit you did in the second and third films with Carnage and Noel, you know? But they ruined it. They really did. And I feel like they could have kept making Venom films and people would have kept going. As bad as 2 and 3 were. But anyway, I'm shocked that this exists the way it does. That's all I can tell you. Let me know down below what you think about Madam Web. What's worse, this or Morbius? I want to hear what you have to say despite my opinions. Thank you all for watching, guys. God bless you all. Catch you later, and goodbye.